Welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to learn more about how you can automate your payments with YoozPay. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Alex Freeman, and I'm an account executive here at Use North America, and I'll be walking you through our solution today. Use was born in the cloud in 2010 and is a sister company to Idasoft. Now, Idasoft is an on-premises software company that has over 30 years of experience and is a global leader in the document processing space for enterprise-level clients. What we did was leverage their insight and expertise to develop an award-winning cloud-based solution that's open to businesses of all levels. We currently have over 4,000 global clients connected to over 250 different ERPs who collectively process tens of millions of documents per year and over 200 dedicated employees to keep it all running. We have offices in the US and in Europe with more expansion underway, and furthermore, we are very passionately committed to the innovation of our technology and invest 25% of our yearly revenue along with customer feedback into R&D so we can remain at the forefront of the automation market. And it's worth noting here that our investment is over twice the average of cloud company norms, irrespective of industry. Before getting into YoozPay functionality, I'd like to provide a high-level view of the process. Again, Yuze's primary focus is the front-end processing of your AP. From the purchase requisition and PO creation within Yuze, you can have one of your users request items, it can get approved by a manager, sent out to your purchaser, which then a purchase order would be created within our system while utilizing your logos that can then be mailed or emailed out from within Yuze to your supplier. Once it's been sent out, it's ready to be received against, and the invoice, of course, is going to be following that. Now, when the invoices get to your organization, we really want to look at how we get them into the Use application, and in this, we're very diverse and agnostic with the ways that you can capture your invoices. You can simply scan in a paper invoice using your normal office scanner. You can batch import multiple invoices and utilize what is called a Use stamp as an invoice separator, and you can even set up a centralized email address where Use will go in and automatically pull attachments into the application. Once captured, Use gets to work scanning the invoice from top to bottom. It reads all text data and extracts that information into a dataset, and from that dataset, we apply our algorithms and AI against it to auto-populate the required header fields of your ERP, such as the vendor code, invoice number, invoice date, cost, tax, and any other required field. Then it goes to the review phase, where an AP clerk will review what data was extracted, what GL code was allocated, and then it follows an approval route and even a payment approval route before getting exported to your ERP. Now, to bring our focus on payments, let's zoom into the pay step to get our first look at YoozPay. Again, YoozPay is going to dramatically reduce the time and effort surrounding your payments while creating a better vendor experience and providing a very high level of visibility. The process starts after final approval, where the invoice goes to your paying agent to begin the YoozPay workflow. It's important to remember that once we get to this step, the paying agent knows that the invoice has gone through its own approval process and is ready to be paid. When the approving the payment, the paying agent will be able to decide the payment date, the payment method, and the amount to pay. Once decided, the invoice will move into the process payment step, where the payment will be initiated either in a batch or as a singular payment on a manual or automated schedule. From there, the vendor receives their payment, confirmation updates Use accordingly, and the ERP is reconciled. Let's go ahead and jump into the platform to see what I've been talking about. Okay, so we're logged in as our paying agent Angela to take advantage of the YoozPay workflow. Now again, YoozPay is our electronic payment add-on that empowers your organization with the simplest and most flexible automated digital payment workflows. And on top of this, you will also be able to generate cashback if your vendors accept virtual cards. So we can see that Angela has 3 invoices across 2 companies to initiate payments on. She has 2 options to initiate those payments, and just like our approvers and AP specialists have singular and batch processing functionality, our paying agent does as well. Angela can jump into the invoice workspace to review one by one and initiate a short pay, overpay, etc., or jump into the complete component to initiate the payments in a batch. Let's go ahead and get into the invoice workspace and see what's changed for Angela there. Now, it's the same invoice workspace that we have for our other roles. However, if we go into the payment lines, we'll find that it's been populated. On the payment line, Angela will see that the total amount for the invoice was added to the amount to pay field, a payment method being YoozPay, and the payment debit account, which is mainly for reference when we want to reconcile with the ERP. Again, Angela has a lot of flexibility here with how this invoice is going to be paid, and in this case, we want to short pay it. So I'll go to the amount to pay field and I'll type in $100. I could include a due date as part of this workflow, but I'll go ahead and leave it blank for now. These grayed out fields on the right hand side will remain grayed out as they will be populated with information processed by our APIs. I'm also able to leave a quick note for the vendor by typing a message into the payment comment field that will be displayed on the payment email that's sent to the vendor. From here, it's very easy, and all I need to do is click approve to initiate the payment. Now, our demo system is set up for the payment processing to be instant. However, it is fairly rare because most of our clients like to have a payment batch that they can either trigger manually or on an automated schedule like daily, weekly, or something in between. What's important to point out with batch processing is that it will allow you to group multiple invoices per payment from the same vendor. Once the payment has been triggered, if I go back to my AP Specialist user, the invoice is now residing in the in progress component with the status of waiting pass for payment, which tells us that we're now waiting for the vendor to take action. And once they've selected how to receive the payment, the invoice will change status here. So let's go ahead and change gears to the vendor side of the experience and jump into our vendor inbox. We can open our latest email, and this is what the vendor is going to receive for an electronic check. Also, the vendor will have access to the payment details that gives them much more visibility over traditional methods. And now the vendor can select this button to choose how to receive the payment. And you can see that the vendor has many different options to choose from, and this will ultimately be adjusted based on vendor preference. The first one is an ACH deposit, and if the vendor chooses this option, they'll be prompted to enter their banking information to receive the money like an ACH. This is super easy because the vendor provides their banking information directly and no longer needs to share it with their clients. The second option is for printing and depositing a check, and when this option is chosen, a PDF will be generated that the vendor can take to the bank to manually deposit with the teller or through their banking app. The third option is Mail My Check, and when this is offered, a check will be printed and mailed. It's mailed the same day if it's selected before 3 p.m. Pacific time or the next day if after. And finally, there's the virtual card, which is the most interesting one for use clients because when this is offered, the vendor will receive a one-time use virtual card that will be funded instantly and can be used anywhere. Or if the vendor accepts cards, they can receive their payment this way. This is most often the desired payment method as it's the only one that provides any rebate potential. And I am getting a great question typed across in that do we require any sort of pre-funded account for the virtual cards? And that is the case. We will need a pre-funded custodial account to utilize those virtual cards. So our goal at Use as part of YoozPay is to learn from vendor preferences. Initially we'll only want to offer two options, Mail My Check and the virtual card, to try to maximize those virtual card conversions. And once we know what vendors accept virtual cards, we'll only send that option. Now, if the virtual card is not selected but Mail My Check is, then we'll show the additional options to offer something faster and cheaper than those physical checks. Once an option has been selected by the vendor, the status in Use will move from the status of waiting pass for payment to wait for payment confirmation. Well, we will wait for the ERP payment confirmation, which is an export that will generate a file or API call to the ERP to let it know that it's been paid. And finally, the last important thing to point out is that we did short pay this invoice. So the way the YoozPay add-on works is that if the vendor has a $0 balance after the payments, it will go to a completed status. However, if the balance due is greater than 0, then the invoice will go back to Angela in the approved payment step for her to continue processing. In the event a payment fails, is canceled, a check is voided, etc., then the invoice will just go back to the approved payment step as well. So with that, it's time to wrap up, and I want to say thank you for joining me today while I illustrated the YoozPay add-on at a high level where we can provide an unmatched all-in-one solution that covers the complete process. The payment approval workflow gives extra control and security while also bringing ease and simplicity, and is truly a win-win for both sides. Thank you so much. Hope you have a great day.